Hello and welcome to Learn Spanish a lo Boricua. It's time for class. Today we're reviewing the game we played. It wasn't quite a conversation, rather we played more trivia style. We did a trivia style episode. In episode 27, we're going to be reviewing the questions and answers, going over some of the important vocab that came up from our previous episode. It is October 1st, which means two things. Número uno, que ya cumplí 3 años en Puerto Rico. I moved to Puerto Rico 3 years ago on October 1st. So that's very exciting. It also means that we're starting our new challenge series on my platform. I wanted to get a little bit better about making sure you guys know what kind of options there are for you to do speaking practice. The most important, you're getting a lot of Puerto Rican listening with this podcast, but of course, you can't just listen and hope to be able to speak. That's not how it works. And in fact, many of you who are second or third generation will know that very intimately. You may have listened to Spanish for most of your life and understand a lot of it, but speaking is a whole different beast. And it really requires for you to actively use your speaking in order to get better at that. You can listen to a lot of piano music, but that doesn't mean that you can sit down and play, correct? So it's the same idea here. You really need to practice the technique, the coordination of moving your fingers, of being able to read music, of memorizing the song. The same thing happens in Spanish. Listening to it is not the same as working on producing it. The only thing that gets you better at speaking is by doing a ton of speaking practice over and over again in the long term, okay? So my platform, I think, is one of the best places where you can do speaking practice that is not dependent on the availability of another person, right? There's lots of platforms out there where you can practice with puertorriqueños específicamente que quieran practicar su inglés, but you are, of course, having to coordinate with them, figure out when your schedule is going to work, etc. On my platform, you have tons of challenges that you can participate in at 3 o'clock in the morning if you decide to do so. So I'd like to just jump us over real quick to the platform, and I want to show you guys. I'm going to be starting as of our new challenge series always starts the first week of the month. I always teach a live class about how to participate in that challenge the first Tuesday of the month. If you can't attend live, the class is recorded and posted the next day, okay? In September, we did this just 20 minutes challenge. It had great participation. And as of this coming week, I'm going to be opening up a reading and vocab challenge. Okay, I teach the live class on Tuesday. It's recorded and posted the next day so that you can figure out what level of reading would be best for you for this challenge. You're going to be doing 2 days of reading based on short stories that I've picked out according to level, absolute beginner to advanced. I have short stories to read. You read out loud twice a week, and then you'll do the third day is working on producing the language. So you're going to be taking some of the new vocab from the readings that you've done and trying to put it into easy sentences. If you're more beginner, if you're just getting into producing the language and starting to speak again, then just a short, simple sentence will be all you need to sort of get your brain into that practice. People will come to me and say, wow, I'm finding it's really, really hard for me to put things together. Of course, because you're just starting to do it. You won't feel that way in a year from now, but you will feel that way in a year from now if you don't start working on it now. It's a long process. It takes a ton of consistency. Go ahead and get started on producing the language. Jump into our October reading and vocab practice. You'll have a lot of practice of speaking, of pronunciation, as well as improving your vocab and working on putting things together. I have 2 other Spanish teachers that work with me on the platform, and they give you feedback on your posts, especially those sentences that you guys are going to be working on creating, okay? Like I said, I've got options for readings from absolute beginner, where you're just doing basic introductory type of reading, all the way through to, we're going to read the first couple pages of a novel if you're more advanced. All right, Spanish with Carrie platform. The link to sign up is right in the podcast. It's not a podcast description. It always is linked there. The tier 1 membership gets you access to that challenge, plus all of the live classes that I do. I have an advanced conversation class, an intermediate conversation class, and I have game nights for beginners. Beginners simply, we don't have enough. I'm a beginner also in Italian. You just don't have enough vocab to be able to have a conversation, guys. I'm so sorry. So we have to do other types of things for my beginners. We have a verbal Pictionary night. We're going to do a Halloween theme this month. Halloween and fall themed vocab for our verbal Pictionary, which is where you pick out a couple words and you practice trying to describe them. If your word was pumpkin, okay, you would have to then describe a pumpkin. Es una cosa, es una comida. es un vegetal, es color China, sabe que they use the word China in Puerto Rico for orange. And then you would continue to describe it. We would try to guess what that thing is, right? So a great way for you to practice kind of short bits of information, conveying short bits of information, and also listening and understanding while your fellow classmates are doing their verbal Pictionary word, okay? All of that, you also have access to the resource section. About 80,000 times in this podcast so far, I've talked to you guys about reflexive verbs. I have many live classes on that, live classes on different parts of grammar, etc. All of that for $25 a month, Spanish with Carrie platform. Check it out. Let's get into it. All right, the first question that came up, and I'm not going to include every single question that we went over. I just want to do the ones that I think have really critical or fun vocab. La pregunta número uno fue, ¿por qué ves el rayo antes de escuchar el trueno? Okay, ¿por qué ves el rayo antes de escuchar el trueno? What words do we have here that I want to point out? El rayo y el trueno, okay? You might have learned, as I did in school, relámpago as the word for lightning. I don't hear that as much here. El rayo is what's used commonly here for lightning, and it would also be a ray of light, okay? El rayo. The word for thunder is trueno, okay? El rayo, lightning, trueno, thunder. What do we have here? Why do you see, ves, from the verb ver, to see, el rayo, lightning, before, antes de, escuchar, hearing, el trueno? Okay? Muy bien. This leads me to a saying that I had to share with you guys. Ea rayo, or ea rayete. Okay, this is used so often in Puerto Rico. First of all, just the sound ea would kind of be like, wow, or dang. It's already a sound in itself to express surprise, or maybe something that kind of takes you back a little bit. Ea, wow, okay, is the feel. Ea rayo is used all the time as a saying used to express surprise. Okay, you could even see it by even saw a shirt that has this expression on it. It's super common in Puerto Rico. Let's say, I remember one of the first times I heard this years ago, I followed, which I recommend that you guys do, that you follow Puerto Rican influencers that create content that's interesting. It's something that interests you, whether you like fitness, whether you like reading, whether you like business and personal growth type of content. There's someone in Puerto Rico creating content about that subject. Follow them. It will combine something you're already interested in with your language learning process, right? First time I saw this years ago, or heard this expression, following a woman, and she's an author, and she was doing some shopping. She picked up a book. She's like, oh, I love this one. And then she flipped it over. She realized that the binding was all messed up. Okay, it was already damaged. She was in the store. And so she said, "Ea rayo," right? Oh, damn. It's not a cuss word. It's really not, but it kind of has the feel of like, oh, damn. I don't think damn is one of our most strong cuss words. And some places it feels like that. Oh, damn. And sometimes just complete shock. Ea rayo. Whoa, something just jumped out at you. Woo. Surprise expression. Okay, excellent one to have. It will have you sounding sumamente puertorriqueño if you use ea rayo, ea. All right, question 2. After that, after this first one, I have forgot to turn all of the words question into pregunta. Perdóneme. Okay, ¿cuál de los siguientes productos proviene de algún animal? ¿Cuál de los siguientes productos proviene de algún animal? This is super helpful. I'm going through exactly what it was that Alfredo was saying, right? The other way that you can have this is by signing up for Patreon. $5 a month will get you the transcripts, not only the transcripts to all of our conversations, it will also get you all of the vocab in ready-made Quizlet decks for you to study, the vocab that I go over here in these past episodes, okay? Our options here were pan, el pan, la mantequilla, o la jalea, okay? El pan, la mantequilla, la jalea. Hopefully you know pan at this point. Bread, la mantequilla. Butter. This is also be how you would say peanut butter, mantequilla de maní. The word for peanut is maní, M-A-N-I. The I is accented, maní. But you will also hear in Puerto Rico, peanut butter. Peanut butter. Okay? You'll definitely hear both. La jalea is jelly. That might be a new word for you. Okay, la jalea. Mantequilla o el pan. So we've got which of the following products, both of these, right? All of this has to be plural, right? Products is plural, following is plural, the is plural. Agreement in Spanish, los siguientes productos. Siguiente, that's the aspirated S. Proviene, which of these comes from an animal? Algún animal. Algún, some animal, animal. Pregunta número 3. ¿De qué país provienen las tortillas o las plantillas? Okay, ¿de qué país provienen las tortillas o las plantillas? We talked about this right there in the episode, and I later did a poll and I asked the language exchange chat as well. Everybody in the language exchange chat that grew up here in the island agreed on plantillas, but I had heard that another student was, a friend of mine was not familiar with that one. And she said that in her family, they use tortillas. I asked Alfredo about it. He said, normal and Spanglish. That was his response to me saying, oh, it seems like there's some places they do use tortillas and plantillas on the island. And he said, oh, normal Spanglish. He treated it like they're pulling from English, that in English we call these tortillas, but which might be the case. I don't know. Right? I've always heard here plantillas. And that is because, as Alfredo, as we explained in the episode, la tortilla española is more like quiche. This is what la tortilla española would be in Puerto Rico. It's an egg dish, usually made with potatoes a lot of times, nice and fluffy. Looks like a quiche to me. Okay, so I think to differentiate, plantillas is used for what we would call tortilla or a wrap, right? And I also said in the episode that in Puerto Rico, they use the word wrap. It sounds like wrap. Sometimes they even have a little bit of a G sound in there, as you guys know, with certain W's. Sounds that have a slightly G, like wow. That definitely happens in other countries pretty strongly. But it'll have a little bit of that G sound, un wrap or un wrap, for the name of a wrap. Right? The actual thing that it comes on, la plantilla or la tortilla, if they're Spanglishizing it. Okay, quiche. Here we've got una plantilla integral. All right, I just wanted to bring up the word integral. If that is new to you, that would be how you'd say whole wheat or whole wheat bread. Right, a whole wheat wrap would be una plantilla integral. If it was whole wheat bread, it would be pan integral, el pan integral. And if you wanted to say what we would call brown rice, would be arroz integral, arroz integral. If you were anywhere outside of the El Área Metro, you might hear ajos, ajos integral, la R arrastrada. Okay, number 4. Alfredo asks, ¿cuál de los 4 océanos es el más grande? ¿Cuál de los 4 océanos es el más grande? And I wanted to go over simply the pronunciation here. Which of our 4 oceans is the biggest? Okay, and I just wanted to talk about the pronunciation. This is something that I would say 90% of students get wrong. Océano. Make sure that you are stressing se. Océano. The force of the word needs to be on the sound se. Océano. Océano. El océano. And the answer was el Pacífico. The Pacific. Número 5. ¿Cuál es lo opuesto a amor? ¿Cuál es lo opuesto a amor? What is the opposite of love? The word is odio. El odio means hate. I wanted to go over this verb because a lot of times students will treat it like the verb gustar. Odiar, and I touched on this briefly in the episode, does not work like gustar. Very important distinction. First, let's review gustar. When you say, me gusta ir a la playa, what you're really saying is going to the beach pleases me. Remember that gustar means to please or to be pleasing. So the way it works grammatically is that the thing that you're talking about liking is the subject. Chocolate is pleasing to me. That's why you use me and not yo. I'm not saying I like in Spanish. It's not like that. Chocolate is pleasing to me. That is the literal translation of me gusta el chocolate, right? Me gusta la cerveza de Ocean Lab. True statement. Okay, Ocean Lab beers are pleasing to me. That's why we had to change gustar here, right? Because all of a sudden, instead of saying going to the beach is pleasing, we're saying beers are pleasing, right? Just when it's like we would do in English, if it's plural, we have to change the verb to what it would be for a plural conjugation. Beers are, the beach is pleasing. Okay, me gusta la cerveza de Ocean Lab. That's how it works. So saying le gusta is really saying it's pleasing to him, to her, or to usted. Te gusta is saying it's pleasing to you, right? That's not how odiar works. Odiar just means to hate. If I want to say I hate, this time I am the subject, right? It's not like gustar where I'm saying running just is the worst thing to me. It's not. I'm straight up saying in Spanish, I hate. I put the verb odiar in the conjugation for yo. Odio correr. Another true statement. Odio correr. I hate running. Odio correr. I'm not saying running is not pleasing to me. I'm straight up saying I hate running. I am the one doing the action. I'm the one doing the hating. Okay. And what is it that I hate? Follows. Okay. Therefore, be very careful about using me, te, nos, etc. with odiar. You're not using it like gustar. What you're saying is somebody hates me. If I use me in front of odio or odiar, it would be somebody hates me. I hate me if it's me odio, right? Me odia, she hates me. Okay. If I throw the me in there, it means someone hates me. It doesn't work grammatically like the verb gustar. Seguimos. Let's keep going. Question 6. ¿Cómo se le dice a una uva seca? ¿Cómo se le dice a una uva seca? Okay. How do we call? What do we say? How do we call a dried grape? Right? That would be las pasas. Pasas are raisins. Pasas. Uva, grape. Pasas. Raisins. Vino. Wine. Question number 7. ¿Cuál es la letra que no se pronuncia en la palabra mahón? ¿Cuál es la letra que no se pronuncia en la palabra mahón? La H. Do not. I repeat, do not pronounce the H in this word, and here's why. Because you are dangerously close to the word for turd. Mojón. Let's listen carefully. Mojón. Mahón. Mojón. Mahón. Notice that in jeans, there is absolutely no hint of an H. Okay. Mojón, you do have to make that H sound. It means turd. Mahón means jeans. Usually I record these episodes on a weekday when Alfredo is not home, but it's Sunday and he is home. So I'm going to ask our local resident expert to pronounce these two words so you guys can hear the difference.
Mojón. Mahón.
Mojón, mahón.
El mojón. El mahón.
Muchas gracias. Okay, don't make that mistake. I'd take this guy anywhere. Question 8. Okay, ¿cómo se le llama a una persona que toma fotografías profesionalmente? ¿Cómo se le llama a una persona que toma fotografías profesionalmente? Right? How do you call a person who takes photographs professionally? How do you call? That's not how we say it in English. I'm so sorry. It's really hard to translate on the spot, people. What do you call a person that takes photographs professionally? The answer is el fotógrafo or la fotógrafa. Okay, notice the emphasis there. It's going to be on foto. Fotógrafo, fotógrafo, fotógrafa. Fotógrafo, fotógrafa. That's a photographer. Número 9. ¿Cuáles dos palabras forman la palabra espantapájaros? ¿Cuáles dos palabras forman la palabra espantapájaros? Espantapájaros means scarecrow, by the way. You might be thinking, okay, Carrie, great. That's like super useful to my life. Maybe, maybe not. You might have kids, in which case, talking about, and that you want to learn Spanish, in which case these little things are important, right? Walking around and seeing things and being able to name them. That's all you do when you have a baby, is constantly teach them vocab. So you have to do to anybody that is learning Spanish as well, including yourselves. Let's talk about the breakdown of these two words, even more important maybe than scarecrow itself. Espantar. Espantar means to scare off or to frighten. I think of it like to scare away, to shoo something off. Okay, to frighten, to scare off. And pájaro, pájaro is a bird. Watch your emphasis there. Notice that there's an accent mark over the first A, so that needs to be the strongest sound. Pájaro, pájaro. Espantapájaros is a scarecrow. You are scaring off birds. Y finalmente, ¿dónde uno guarda la comida que sobra para que no se pierda? ¿Dónde uno guarda la comida que sobra para que no se pierda? A couple things I want to talk about here. Again, I've talked about this 1,000 times, the use of uno, where we would say, where do you store food, or where do you put food? Sorry, I should say, where do you put the food that's left over so that it doesn't go bad, that it doesn't get lost? Doesn't translate exactly, but the idea is that it goes bad, that it doesn't go to waste. Maybe we could think of it in that way. It would be a better translation for para que no se pierda, so that it doesn't go to waste. It doesn't get bad. Okay. Guarda being to put away, to store something. Sobra. Let's talk about these couple words. Las sobras are leftovers. Okay. Sobrar is the verb to be leftover, or to be more than enough, to have more than enough of something. I remember, I think I even shared this in the episode where we talked about the gym. I shared this trainer whose page I follow. In a interview, he talked about how when he first started online, he wasn't really getting many haters. And he thought, maybe it's just because my content's so green and, you know, it's kind of straightforward. There's nothing controversial about it. And he said, mano, then, you know, that was at first. Now, mano, ahora están que sobran. Ahora están que sobran, right? Now there's more than enough. Now the situation is that there's so many haters. There's more than enough. Okay, it's not just leftover, it's to have more than enough, more than you need, more than you want of haters. All right, you will have heard us go through this. La nevera is fridge. Neverita. I'll come up in another episode. Maybe. La neverita would be a cooler. Nevera is the fridge in Puerto Rico. Thank God that I use the word refrigeradora or refrigerador. I don't know, whatever. It's too complicated in Spanish. El freezer. Alfredo corrected me and he said congelador. But what do they use here in Puerto Rico? They use freezer. And then freezer. Okay? They use frizar as to freeze. Te frizaste. You froze. Freezer is absolutely used. I've been thinking about just creating a separate Quizlet deck for y'all that has all of the terms that are used in Spanglish here. Okay. Thank you very much for watching today's episode. Please follow me on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram. Give this episode a like. Leave a comment if you enjoyed it. If there's something in particular about the episode that you liked, I'd love to hear it. It helps it get out there to more people. As I mentioned earlier, if you're interested in the transcripts of our conversations and those pre-made Quizlet texts of all the vocab that I go over in these class episodes, sign up for $5 a month for Patreon. That gives you the stuff that's related to the podcast, right? Transcripts and vocab. The platform that I mentioned earlier gives you speaking practice, feedback on your speaking practice, live classes, and a huge library of resources, okay? That's $25 a month Spanish with Carrie platform. The link to sign up is right there in the podcast description. Hasta la próxima, mi gente.